Hello. Thank you so much for taking the time and being a part of GTM Talk, Laxman. Means a lot that you're a part of GTM Talk.
Thanks, Ashish. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you. Right. So for those who don't know Lakshman is the CEO founder of Outplay. Right. Let me step a little back and explain. When I hear, okay, so let me tell you about Lakshman, right? So when I hear the word hustle, Lakshman comes to my mind, right? He's done everything possible to get one step closer to success every single time. So if you look at Lakshman's journey, he started out as a project engineer. 1 year later, started an advertising firm that helps advertisers promote their product on targeted blogs. Later on, founded this app called App Virality, which basically provided SDKs for developers to add growth hacking techniques in their apps without having to write code. Right? He raised 8 million or 8.1 million for that founder, and I think they shut it down 5 years later. Founded Outplay, which is a sales engagement platform. It's every salesperson's best friend. Trust me on that. I use Outplay every single day, right? And they raised 9.3 million or around that for Outplay. So that's Lakshman. Lakshman, have I done justice to your introduction or have I missed out something there?
No, that's a perfect introduction. One small correction is we didn't raise that much for App Virality.
Okay.
We've raised about 1 million for that, and for Outplay, we have raised about 10 million. Everything else is like accurate.
Oh yeah, perfect. Right. So this podcast is about GTM. So let's jump right in. And I'm just gonna ask you, how did you get the idea of Outplay? Like, did you have a personal problem while doing outreaches and trying to get customers for app virality? Is that where it started? How did Outplay originate?
Yeah, so that's a long story, but let's make it short so we can talk more about GTM. So, as you've said, the story right out of college, we were bloggers, both me and my co-founder. My co-founder at Outplay is my elder brother. So we are brothers in the crime. So we were bloggers at that point, and from blogging, we've built an ad network for bloggers and advertisers. So advertisers could come, filter the blogs of their choice, and get the reviews, banner ads, and all that stuff. So at that point, I was personally interacting with hundreds of bloggers and advertisers at the same time, and all I had, the tool stack that I had was Gmail and Google Sheets on the background. Foreface of it is a WordPress template. It looked like it's a proper agency, but in behind the scenes, we are just two people with a Gmail and a Google Sheet. So at that point, I was doing the same sales cycle. Probably I didn't know that LinkedIn exists and all this stuff. There is like something like Zoom Info and all to find and reach out to the right person. But essentially, I was finding all these companies on TechCrunch, the funding news, going to their contact page, filling out the form, go back after 3 days, fill the form again, go back after 3 days, fill the form again. That's like my sequence. And contact form has become a channel for me. So back in that time, we were doing a lot of back and forth emails, and that's when my co-founder Ram built a simple Chrome extension that works on Google Sheets and Gmail, and automatically does the follow-ups part. But we didn't pursue that as an idea after the blogging thing. As you said, we did a bunch of other products as well. And over the time, I've used a lot of these products that exist in the market today. I've found a lot of gaps. And when we finally wanted to pick an idea, it's a quite natural choice that, okay, we said, okay, this is something we built like 7, 8 years back. But back then, we didn't know anything about startups and we didn't know anything about this category called sales engagement. So we thought this is the perfect time. And then we have reached out to a lot of salespeople across the country. I spoke to almost 150 to 180 people, trying to figure out whether this is the right time to get into something like sales engagement space. And fast forward to the story, we have built the product and we have raised, and today here we are.
Right. But how did you go about validating your idea, Lakshman? Like, did you speak
Yeah.
to people? Did you speak to companies? Did you find out if it's a problem statement? Like, how did you go about that process?
Yeah, so for us, it's a very straightforward process because we were getting into an existing category. Uh, by the time we started Outplay in 2020, early Jan 2020, the sales engagement as a category is well established, and there are good set of companies here. A lot of them have raised money, crossed 100 million revenue, and all that stuff. So for us, it's very easy to reach out to the users of our competition and also in general salespeople on LinkedIn asking them, like at that point, I did two things. One, I've generally reached out to them saying, hey, I'm a startup founder trying to start this thing. If you really enjoy talking to people, helping people, or finding new tools in the market, I would love to talk to you and show what we have. And another way, some people are not responsive for that kind of a pitch. For them, I said like, hey, I'll give you a $50 or Amazon, $100 Amazon gift card if you can trade like 15 minutes with me. The 15 minutes will go on like 60 minutes, but that's a different story, right? So those are the two things I did. And in general, salespeople are very vocal and open. They're open to helping people. They're open to taking a look at new tools and all that stuff. So those calls really helped me figure out what they use today, why they use, what they like, what they don't like. Is there any wish list for them that their current vendor is not building or listening and all that stuff? So I did that for almost 6 months before building Outplay, because I had built a couple of other startups earlier. I know what it takes to build these things. It's better to spend time now, validate your idea and your hypothesis, than go into the market and then only realize, okay, I built something really shitty.
Right. So how different is it to build a product in an existing category versus building a product creating category?
Yeah, so those are differently two different things altogether. And then every founder has a different vision of or the ideology around what they want to build. So my first company, AppVariety, is of that. There was no category, there were no competition that I could refer to and all that stuff. So I know the challenges in that space. So this time I said, like, we are going into an existing category. So at least we don't have to solve for the education piece, which takes a lot of time, a lot of money and energy. So getting into an existing category, you really have to find what's your sweet spot and why you are getting into it. So you should find something that will help you get to that first million or 2 million, and from there you can kind of diverge into different feature set or differentiators. But in the initial days, you should find that niche that will help you get to that first 1 or 2 million if it is an existing category. If you are just like a Me Too product, then it's a very different story. You have to kind of sail through all the odds to get there.
With the fact that there's a unicorn in your category already, did that demotivate you, or did you see that as a factor that okay, there's a unicorn, why not create a unicorn from here, from India?
Yeah, that's the later part. That's a good story. I mean, to have a competition that your competition is already a unicorn, they have raised a lot of money, they have hundreds of customers, investors, which means that everyone knows about this product and this category. You don't have to explain them what you're trying to do, not just for your customers, but everyone. Your hiring makes easy all of a sudden because people know how to sell these tools, how to market these tools. And for your investors, you don't have to explain what you're trying to do. All you have to talk is like, why are you getting into this space right now and why people should buy from you?
Right. So, Lakshman, so just to summarize, so you guys spoke to a bunch of people and you guys spoke to a bunch of salespeople and you did it yourself as a founder. You spoke to people and they said,
Yeah.
okay, there's a gap. Let's build something. So then you started building your product on the side, right? And then how did you get your first 10 customers?
Yeah, so there is a link between these two phases here. The first set of people that I spoke to, a lot of them became customers, advisors, employees, and investors also. So if you have a good bunch of people, if you're really talking to, and if you're kind of convince them on what you're building and keep them up to date on what you're doing over the time, because the time that you talk to them and the time that you actually launch the product, there will be a sweet 12 to 18 months time based on what kind of product are you building, and are you getting into an existing category, which means you have to build all the bells and whistles before you even launch the product. So during this phase, I was constantly in touch with them. I was showing them the Figma screens. I was kind of taking them through everything. Well, I mean, I don't have any other job while my co-founder is building the product. I'm all free, right? So our first sales hire came from this bunch of groups. David Glickman, he was our first sales head. He came from that. He was using one of the competition. Over the 6 months, he really kind of loved our product and us as a team. And one day said like, hey, I'm really into this. I was just thinking this day and night. How can I help you guys? Can I join? Right. And I mean, it's not that people just join for the money or the because of the early stage and all that stuff. But in this case, literally, um, We haven't raised money by then. So to David, I said, dude, all good. I really love to have you, but I can't pay you anything. Like, I don't have any money to pay you. But I'm happy to give you a commission if you want to do it a side hustle or something. You know what? He quit his job and he joined full time and he worked on commission for 1 year, pure commission. So that's how you'll make all these people. And first 10 customers to your question, at least 3 to 4 of first 10 came from this bunch, and others from the pure outbound that we did using our own tool. We've reached out to a lot of folks with the same things, like, hey, we are new boys in the town. We have these differentiators. Would love to give you a product tour. And as I said, a lot of salespeople, if you reach out to them at the right time with the right pitch, they'll at least give you some time to go through the product. So
What
once
was
you
the
show them the product, then the magic happens, and then some of them would convert, some of them are locked in the contracts. That's a different story. But the first 10, not just first 10, the first $1 million that we have reached on Outplay is purely on outbound. We never had a blog, we never had a marketing team.
right? What was the first sequence that worked for you?
First sequence as a founder, I didn't try to pitch anything about the product. I said, hey, I'm your fellow sales guy trying to build something on this existing category. You know, these competition exist. I'm sure you might have used them. But we really have solid differentiators and would love to show you and take your advice. So I mean, there is no strong call to action as in like I'm trying to pitch you, but I've built something. I want to show you and take your feedback. That's it.
And this word magic, word like magic for you guys.
I don't say it's magic. Even to that, a lot of people don't respond, but you can expect at least 30% response rate. I think that's what I saw, at least if I remember it correct, and somewhere around 30 to 40% people would respond back to you given time.
Got it, got it, got it. And you mentioned that David was your first sales hire, right? So did David join you guys at the time when you guys didn't have a product ready, or did he join after you had the first 30 customers?
Not customers, I would say. We had the product ready for sure, and probably we might have got like some 10, 20 customers, not a big number to say. At that point, David joined.
Got it. When do you think is the right time for you to hire your first salesperson on the team?
So I would say, as a founder, you have to close some customers first until you find, until you're confident that there is a repeatable model that you found, right? Because the moment you get a salesperson in, you have to feed them. You have to feed them with leads, meetings, or you have to feed them with their approach so that they could get their own meetings. So until you have figured that out, I mean, I don't believe in like, okay, you hire some magic sales guy, he will come and figure out everything for you. That's not going to happen. I mean, if that happens, you're truly lucky. May happen. We can't say that. But that's when I would say, like, get first 10 or 20 customers on your own. So you know how to guide the first person you're hiring. In our case, as I said, that's a different story that I didn't have to spend anything. So I'm least bothered about that piece of it. So if David comes on board, I'm happy because he comes with 20, 30 years of sales experience, and probably I could learn from him as well. So we both worked on that initial set of customers to bring them.
Right. So the first 30 people you got, just to go a little deeper and understand, it was only through one channel, which is cold emailing. Or did you use LinkedIn? Did you use other channels as well?
It's a multi-channel. It's LinkedIn, calls, and emails.
LinkedIn calls as well. People you know, or
Yep.
it was random cold calling that you did?
Cold calling, random cold calling.
What?
One of the best months at Outplay, we made 16,000 odd calls in a month.
16,000 calls. How big were you guys?
Yeah. We were a team of 8 SDRs or something, I guess.
8 SDR, 16,000 calls.
Yeah, in a month. Like they make around 100 calls on average per working day, and
Wow.
even more maybe. Yeah, I was going through the Salesforce report to put it in a presentation. Recently, I gave a talk at another community. I mean, yeah, I mean, looking back, yes, definitely a hard thing I mean, especially if you're thinking about doing it from India. But that's doable. A lot of companies are doing it now.
Right. Okay. So understand, let's go a little more into GTM and your acquisition channels, right? So again, I'm going back when you guys started. I'm not talking to this big founder that has raised $10 million. No, I'm going back to understand like this can help other startups in similar domains. How did they start? That's the goal of this, right? So one you use LinkedIn, one you do cold emailing. What are the other, like when do you start your Google AdWords? How did it work for you? When did you start?
Yeah, so as I said, the first $1 million of ARR, we've purely followed the same approach. Just use Outplay, reach out to the people, give them the demo, and the classic outbound model that we did. And that's when I've started hiring for the marketing folks. And probably it's been 2022 was the full year that we did proper marketing. We've started off with the blog, paid, and all the other channels. But we got marketing folks. Sandeep John is our head of marketing, so he came and hired all the people and put all the channels together. So the last year is the full year that we did that. Otherwise, the first 18 months of it is like full outbound.
So you were predominantly a founder-led. GTM was the motion that you guys did, and then
Yeah.
you became a sales-led motion, and now you're transitioning into a marketing-led motion, I would say.
Yeah, kind of to get to the balance. That's when you'll kind of find the channels to grow, keep your CAC under control, and all that things come into the picture. But very early on, like with a small team, you can't really focus on all things. Like you can't be doing 10 things. So in that early days, at least until you hire someone right who will do the marketing, or if you're a founder who is like good at marketing, probably you would start off with marketing versus sales. So it purely depends on the founder's choice or the founding team's choice. But in our case, as you said, it's a pure sales driven motion and then marketing. And now we are almost 50-50, or even marketing has taken over more than 50 now.
Got it, got it. And I'm just going to go one by one to different acquisition channels, right? So I understand that LinkedIn has played a huge role, cold emails has played a huge role, and that's how you guys were. And how do you guys view PR? Like, or did you even think of PR as one of the acquisition channels, or that was not even there in your mind till about the first million?
First million, we haven't tried anything. We were fully clear and focused on just one thing, which is outbound, and some organic was happening through referrals. Some of the good karma that we are doing through other campaigns that we did, Call of Fame, where we said like all cold calls. Like, I mean, until then, no one was doing. Like, we said, okay, why don't you put out your calls? And it was a long thing. Like, it took a lot of time for us to convince people to do that. So some of the unique things we did worked out well, even in the early days also. But when we got the marketing team, like they just took all of that thing that's working and they kind of elevated them very well.
Got it. Should I attribute the first 1,000 visitors on your website, the first 5,000 visitors on your website, purely via cold emails that you guys have sent?
Not the visitors on the website, I would say. We were not even focusing on anything on the website. Like I never logged into Google Analytics also in the early days. Because I mean, we were not doing anything. So it doesn't make sense to put our energies on that. Only when the marketing team came, they've put the website, they've changed the website, they've put all the pages, all the basic structure that a website needs to have for SEO and all that stuff. Now we have a good marketing team with like 10 to 12 people divided into a bunch of things. So everything has a owner and we do it properly now. But in the early days, as I said, we were laser focused on one thing. So that because it's a small team, like you can't be doing all that. And we were not experts in marketing or any of that sort. So it doesn't make sense to learn all the things new and do it right now.
So play to your strengths.
Play to your strength in the early days, obviously. Like that's what gets you probably to the funding or probably to the first few customers or even to kind of decide whether this product is gonna fly or not.
Right. And have you guys thought of community building as a channel?
We thought of it. We did also to a certain extent, but we have kind of realized that that requires some dedicated amount of time and a person to do the engagement. It's very easy to build a community, but keep the community engaged is the real tough part. So we did that, but at that point in time, we didn't have a marketing team, so we didn't continue to focus on that. But now also we don't have a proper community as in, but the Call of Fame initiative that we do, there are about like some 10,000 odd people subscribe to that. So every Wednesday we send them out a cold call, and the open rates are insane on that. But we want to keep it simple. Like, hey, you register to this every Wednesday in your mailbox. We will put a new cold call for you to learn something. Let's not complicate it through creating a Slack and all that stuff. We didn't do, but I'm a big fan of building communities. Hopefully, we'll do one in the future with all these initiatives. We have good fan base, and we'll do a community in the future.
Yeah, because like you said, I think a lot of communities that people start about today, they die a natural death. Like when you start,
Yeah,
you're all pumped and you're engaging
true,
with them, and then people don't see leads coming through the community. People just it becomes a cost center for startups, and it gets it as
true,
natural death. But startups that have really leveraged communities, it works wonders for them. So I'll
true.
definitely be a part of the community if and when you start a community.
Yeah, in the early days, I would say like, see, one is obviously if you have the time and energy, passion, building your own community, nothing can beat that. But in early days, we were part of a lot of communities that other people are running. The Rev Genius is another community, Modern Sales Pro. There are a lot of sales communities that people hang out, and we were very active in those communities, trying to answer questions, help people, and all. So that's the easiest part when you're small, than running your own company. I mean, your own community. But if you have the time and energy and passion to do it, that's the best part.
Got it. And how was partnerships as a channel, Lakshman? Did you guys even think about partnerships as a channel, or do you view it even today as a channel?
Not in the early days, but today, yes, we are doing it.
Okay,
Today, we have a person looking after partnerships, and we kind of partner with all the resellers, agencies, uh, consulting businesses, and all those people, sales influencers, and all those people to build that partnerships.
got it. And did you have an unfair advantage that you were a second-time founder?
Definitely, I would say yes, because I don't have to learn everything the hard way that I did during my first startup. Now I know certain things. Like otherwise, you kind of, as a first-time founder, most of the times you get carried away by everything that's happening either in the industry or in your community. Typically, so I mean, as a second-time founder, the only thing I would say, I don't say it's an unfair advantage to a larger extent, is like you're more matured enough to pick your battles and pick your channels and where to spend time and whom to talk to and all that stuff. You're more mature enough.
Got it. Yeah, makes sense. Lakshman, just to summarize, you're saying till you hit at least 1 million, keep it completely outbound, keep it completely founder led, keep it sales led. Don't complicate, don't overcomplicate, keep it simple, and just sell.
Yeah, in our case, that worked. It could be different for different startups and different founders, but the takeaway here is just focus on one or two things.
Got it. Have you ever used pricing as a growth lever at Outplay? Have you experimented with pricing also?
No, not really. Not even today. We're just trying to do something now. But in the early days, we just said like, okay, there is only one pricing available with Outplay. There is no multiple plans, no confusion, no negotiation, no discounts on monthly versus annual. It was very simple. Monthly pricing, one pricing.
Got it. And so you've not experimented with pricing, but look forward to in the future.
Now we will do. Now we are at a scale that we can start now. But in the early days, like pricing should be the last thing. I mean, first of all, your primary focus is to get as many people as possible on board, get the feedback, build a fan base out of them, and figure out a bunch of other things. Like pricing is not a big deal very early on.
And that number, was it a competitor-based pricing? You saw three competitors and said, okay, let me charge this, let me get 1
Yeah,
million, then I'll
something
figure it out.
similar. Yeah,
Got
something
it.
similar. We just said, okay, I think this is the best number, and let's round it on it. And
I
we
love
did
your
that for
honesty.
almost
I
first
love
12,
your
18
honesty.
months.
I love your honesty, Lakshman. I just love your honesty. Like,
There are a lot more things to worry. So don't reinvent. When you talk to those people in the early days, you will get a sense of why they say the competition is like, okay, expensive or cheap, whatever their concerns around the pricing. So from those conversations, you will kind of get an instinct as to like, okay, how can I make my pricing so that pricing is not a conversations here, right? So pricing should be the last thing just to close, but it should not be the first thing, or it should not be anywhere in between the deal also.
Right. So Lakshman, on Outplay today, you guys don't work on the product-led growth way. Like the world is talking about product-led growth, talking about self-sign-ups, right? That is a motion by itself. Have you ever thought that probably if I open up and make it the product-led, it can be the product-led sales way also, where people come, sign up, try your product, give something free, hook them in, and then your sales team can take a lead and then try conversion. Have you ever thought about that, or it's
We are
in the
doing it
works and
today.
it will happen?
We are doing it today. It's been like 6 months or so. We have slowly kind of moved from that sales only, demo only kind of a motion to sign up, experience the product for 14 days, and then you can directly buy it on the platform if you want to, or you can talk to someone and do it. So it's a sales assist model, not pure PLG, I would say, but we are in it now.
Got it. And how do you guys view events as a acquisition channel?
We are not heavy on the events. We did a couple. I mean, we didn't do anything on our own so far, but we've sponsored a couple of other events like around Saster. Some other friends were doing comedy nights and all that stuff, drinks. In the Saster US and SAS Talk Dublin, we did one. We did a couple in India also, where some sales leaders are doing some say, community stuff, and we've sponsored. So we never did anything directly on our own, but we were sponsoring and helping communities do those events.
And how do you calculate ROI for this, Lakshman? I mean, you seem like a pure sales guy, right? And you'll be at what events? That's the vibe I get from you, right? And this has been
Yeah.
pushed by a marketing. So how do you calculate ROI when it comes to events?
We don't honestly. There is no easy and straightforward way to do that. And for us, events is just brand building. Uh, Brand not just to get customers, but to hire the next best out players as well. So there were scenarios where we have hired like a bunch of people from events that we sponsor. Like they come to those events, they see Outplay, and then they reach out. I mean, they connect with our folks at the event, and they learn about our culture on LinkedIn and everywhere else, and they became employees here. So it's a multifold. Like it's very hard to kind of figure out on the ROI side of it, but it's a more of like a brand building for us. At
Got
this
it.
stage, we are very small even today. Probably that's why my answer is this now, but probably it could change when you grow, when you have a proper CMO and all that stuff. They'll have a different view altogether on the events.
Got it. Got it. Got it. So, but do you have an idea of how you can calculate ROI for events? And you have a thought process behind it?
Yeah, I mean, there is a straightforward way of doing it. Like if you're sponsoring, obviously you'll get those scanners and all that stuff. So you can badge the people coming onto your booth. You can reach out to them and then convert them into your opportunities, close deals. That's one way of doing it. But I don't know how far it's successful. But it's successful for some companies. I've heard it works really well for some companies with higher annual contract values and all that stuff. So that's one way to do it. And even for the other sponsorships we did for the comedy night and all, we got some 600-700 registrations on those events as well. So if it is the right ICP, and if you properly follow up with them and bring them onto meetings and be able to convert them into opportunities, it should work.
Got it. And did we touch upon press releases? I don't think we did, right? How do you
Uh,
guys go about press releases? Like, do you do that quarterly? Is that viewed as an acquisition channel, or is that a brand building exercise? How do you view it?
I see it as a brand building exercise, but we didn't do anything like aggressively on that side. Like we did one when we've raised money, we did one when we did that 30 under 30 SDR campaign, we did one. Very few occasions where we did PR on that, especially, but otherwise, we didn't do any official PR, but we were always active on those communities around what we are building, what we are launching, and all that, the sales communities.
Got it. Got it. No, makes sense. I hope I read about you guys more in the future. Like, I think the world needs to be told. Like, I feel Outplay is a very
Yeah,
media shy company today. That's how I view Outplay. Like, I think you guys need to be more out there, right?
yeah,
I
yeah.
right. So, if you were to let's say if you were to start Outplay all over once again, what would you change?
Um, that's a very tough question because we're just 2.5 years into the journey, so there is nothing hugely that have changed other than the market dynamics and all that stuff that we are in today. How consolidation is playing a big role and how economic downtown and all is happening. Uh, but if I have to do it again, I think I did that already, where I've reached out to a lot of sales folks and did the initial assessment on what I'm building and all that stuff. On top of it, if I have the budget, probably I would build an influencer network around them and keep them engaged because everyone's time is valuable. Of course, people are ready to help you, but when you get onto a proper engagement with them, they're more willing to help you. So I would have created an advisory board sort of a thing, pay them well, and kind of create that solid group. So by the time you have the product, you have like 50 influencers maybe. All of them will talk about you. All of them will talk about your feature launches or anything.
Got it. Makes sense. Three tips you would give for any new B2B SaaS entrepreneur starting out. Should they focus on product? Should they launch their MVP? Should they focus on sales? It can be anything.
Uh, I would say keep it pretty simple, be it product or be it your first channel or anything that you typically do. If you're just getting into, keep it very simple. Uh, even don't even build the product, like just build screens and show it to people as if it's a working product. Like no one cares until they wants to use and complain about few things, which is a good thing. Like don't wait to build everything and make everything perfect and then go into the market because market is changing very fast. Like by the time you build a product, probably you are kind of building something really outdated as well. So I would say build it public, public as in not public uh, by the means of Twitter, but I would say like don't shy away from showing there is no one ready to steal your idea. Ideas are worthless if you are not executing them well. So just be open, talk to a lot of people, keep them updated of what you are building, take the right feedback, then launch it.
Okay. Lakshman, you have a hard stop in 2 minutes, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, let's finish it by then. Okay. Okay, Lakshman, give us three productivity hacks or any product or even two productivity hacks that you use.
Uh, I'm really bad at that. I'm also learning how to do a bunch of things, how to navigate all the emails, Slack messages every day is a big productivity thing that I'm looking forward to learn if anyone is doing better. Uh, but I use the reminders pretty heavily, either on the Notion or my iPhone. I mean, without reminders, probably I'm not going to do anything. So I keep heavily depend on the reminders to do that. In the Slack, I use that remind feature. Like there is,
Yeah,
if you
yeah,
click on
yeah.
those three dots, there is a remind on whatever date. So even today, if I see a very interesting inbound lead that just came into our HubSpot that comes into Slack, and I keep a reminder for myself to check the status of that lead after a week time.
Got it.
Are we following up properly? Are we giving them the right information? Why we've lost it? Why we won? And all that stuff. So
Got it.
Slack, if you're not using that's one of the very important features that I use on Slack.
Got it. Give us one CEO you're looking up to or you're following.
Um, I don't say anyone looking up to or following, but there are a lot of CEOs that I typically follow, including the poster boy of Indian SaaS, Girish from Freshworks, Sri Rocket Lane, and Arvind SuperOps. A lot of SaaS friends, Rohit from Box. So, I mean, especially in Indian community, I follow a bunch of people, at least 20, 30 SaaS founders, either in the similar stage or have gone to heights.
Got
So
it.
I'm constantly in touch. Fortunately, being a second time founder also helps there. I know these folks for a while now, like last 4 or 5 years. So I'm in good touch. If there is anything, I could just ping them on WhatsApp or call them. So fortunate enough to be in that kind of community.
Got it. Last question, Lakshman. What are your thoughts as on GTM as an evolving role in companies today?
No, definitely. Like, see, even today also in the smaller companies, when you look at marketing, there are no specialities as in like you typically look for a generalist who can do anything in the marketing. Only when you get to a certain stage, you look for that specialist who will do only SEO, who will do only campaigns and all that stuff. But in general, startups need more people who can do that. Like marketing folks call it as like some T-shaped marketing or something. Someone who can do anything. Like in the very early stage, all that a startup founder wants you to do is just figure out how can we get leads from these marketing efforts. Like I don't care what you do typically. So that for me is the whole GTM as a broad word is like just figure out how to take this into the market.
Thank you so much for your time, Lakshman. You're one of the most honest people I've met. Like I had a great time talking to you. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Ashish. Thanks for the opportunity. Hope your audience or listeners would appreciate this and learn
Thank
something
you.
from it.
I'm just starting out this, so it's been amazing that you were okay to join this. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. This is one of the greatest channels as well, and I'm following. Like I have a podcast called Hype is Real, and I'm talking to a bunch of CEOs. Our first guest was Gong CEO, second was Clary, third was Six Sense, I guess. Like that podcast is also amazing,
Oh,
and I'm
excellent.
kind of
So
as a host, I know what you're doing.
so I'm going to link your podcast on my YouTube channel as well. So hopefully a few people will follow that.
Thanks a
Thank
lot. Appreciate it, man.
thank
Have a
you.
good day. Bye bye.
You too. Bye bye.